Ethan Caldwell was a man who had everything: wealth, power, and a name that commanded respect in the business world. As a self-made billionaire, he had built his empire from the ground up, turning a small tech startup into a global giant. But, with all his success, one fear gnawed at him. Did his family love him for who he was, or for the fortune that came with his name? The thought had been bothering him for years, but he never had the courage to find out the truth. His wife Claire had been by his side for 10 years, and his 2 children, Olivia and Jacob, had grown up with the best of everything. But deep down, he wondered, if the money disappeared, would they still care? One day, Ethan made a decision. He would fake a financial downfall, losing everything overnight, and see how his family reacted. If they truly loved him, they would stand by him. If not, he would learn the painful truth. With the help of his most trusted lawyer, he fabricated a story. His company had been caught in a major lawsuit leading to bankruptcy. All accounts were frozen. The mansion was seized and every luxury was stripped away. In the span of a week, Ethan went from billionaire to broke. The night he broke the news, Claire sat across from him at the dining table, her perfectly manicured fingers trembled as she gripped her wine glass. "You're saying we have nothing left?" she asked, her voice hollow. Ethan nodded. "Everything is gone. We have to leave the house by the end of the week." For a moment, silence filled the air. Olivia and Jacob, who had been listening, exchanged glances. Then Claire spoke again, her voice cold and distant. "I can't do this, Ethan. I didn't sign up for this life. I can't live like a nobody." His heart sank. "Claire, this is temporary. I'll find a way to—" "No," she snapped. "I married a man who could provide. If you can't, then I have no reason to stay." Ethan felt like the air had been knocked out of his lungs. "Are you saying you're leaving me?" Claire stood up, her chair scraping against the floor. "I deserve better than this. I won't let my children suffer because of your failures." Tears burned in Ethan's eyes, but he swallowed them down. "So, it was never about me. Just the money." She didn't respond. Instead, she turned and walked away. The next morning, Claire was gone. She had taken Olivia and Jacob with her, leaving only a short note. "I won't let them grow up in poverty. We'll be staying with my parents." Ethan sat on the couch, staring at the empty house around him. It was just a test, but the result had shattered him, and that was just the beginning. Ethan sat in the silence of his once lavish home, now stripped of warmth and life. The echoes of his family's footsteps had faded, leaving only the weight of their absence. He had expected disappointment, maybe even frustration from Claire, but abandonment? That was a pain he hadn't been prepared for. His phone buzzed. It was his lawyer, Mark. "Sir, do you want me to proceed with the reversal? The assets can be unfrozen immediately." Ethan clenched his jaw. Not yet. He needed to see how far Claire would go. If she had chosen to walk away this easily, had she ever truly loved him at all? More importantly, what about Olivia and Jacob? Were they just as conditioned to love money over family? Over the next few days, Ethan stayed in a small rental apartment on the rougher side of town. No private chefs, no chauffeurs, just a simple bed, a leaky faucet, and the humbling reality of being poor. He reached out to Claire several times, but his calls went unanswered. Then, one afternoon, he decided to test something else. He went to his children's private school, waiting near the entrance as students poured out in their neatly pressed uniforms. Olivia and Jacob spotted him, their eyes widening in shock. "Dad?" Olivia's voice was barely above a whisper. She glanced around nervously, as if afraid someone would see her talking to him. "What are you doing here?" "I wanted to see you both," Ethan said, trying to smile. "I miss you." Jacob, only 10 years old, frowned. "Are you still broke?" Ethan flinched. "Well, things are tough, but Mom said you ruined everything," Olivia cut in. "That you should have been smarter with your money." Ethan's heart sank. "Is that what you really think?" Olivia avoided his gaze. "I don't know. But Mom says we're better off without you." Jacob shifted uncomfortably, his small fingers gripping the straps of his backpack. "I don't care if we're rich or poor, Dad," he whispered. I just want things to be like before." A lump formed in Ethan's throat. "Me too, buddy." Before he could say anything else, Claire's car pulled up. She stepped out in designer heels, her hair styled to perfection as if nothing had changed. Her eyes darkened when she saw Ethan. "What the hell are you doing here?" she hissed, grabbing Olivia's wrist. "I just wanted to see my kids," Ethan said, keeping his voice calm. "They deserve to hear from me, Claire." "You don't get to show up like this," she snapped. "Not when you can't provide for them." Ethan exhaled slowly. "So that's it then? Money was always the glue holding us together?" Claire scoffed. "Grow up, Ethan. Love doesn't pay the bills." She turned away, guiding Olivia and Jacob into the car. As she drove off, Jacob turned in his seat, his little face pressed against the window. He lifted a hand in a hesitant wave. Ethan waved back, feeling the sharp sting of realization settle deep in his bones. He had his answer now, and the game was over. Ethan sat in his small, dimly lit apartment, staring at the ceiling. The weight of betrayal pressed on his chest like a stone. His own wife, the woman he had loved and trusted for years, had abandoned him the moment the money was gone. Olivia, his own daughter, had looked at him like he was nothing. And Jacob. Jacob was the only one who still saw him as a father, not a failed provider. He had seen enough. It was time to end the test. The next morning, Ethan made a call to Mark. "Pull the trigger," he said. Within hours, his bank accounts were restored. His businesses, which had never truly suffered, were back under his full control. The mansion was still his. The wealth he had supposedly lost? Never gone. Ethan was back. But something inside him had changed. Instead of returning to his old life immediately, he spent a few more days living simply, eating cheap takeout, walking in the park, observing the world in a way he never had before. He saw families laughing together despite their modest lives, children who had nothing but played as if they had everything. And yet, his own family, who had been given everything, had thrown him away like garbage. By the end of the week, Ethan made his decision. He arrived at the mansion unannounced. Claire was lounging by the pool, a drink in her manicured hand, her designer sunglasses shielding her eyes from the morning sun. Olivia and Jacob were inside, absorbed in their expensive gadgets. When Claire saw him, she smirked. "Finally decided to beg for forgiveness?" Ethan chuckled darkly. "Something like that." He pulled out his phone and showed her an email from his lawyer. "I filed for divorce this morning." The color drained from Claire's face. "What?" "How you heard me," Ethan said, his voice firm. "You left me when you thought I had nothing. Now you get exactly what you wanted. You'll have nothing from me." Claire's mouth opened and closed like a fish gasping for air. "Ethan, wait. We can fix this. I was just scared. Save it." Ethan held up a hand. "I gave you the test of a lifetime, Claire. You failed. Miserably." Tears welled in her eyes. "But the kids—" "Jacob can stay with me," Ethan said. "Olivia, she made her choice. She can stay with you if she wants." Claire sobbed, clutching at his arm. "Please, Ethan, don't do this." He pulled away, looking at her one last time, the woman he once thought he knew. "You threw me away when I needed you most. Now I'm just returning the favor." With that, Ethan turned and walked away. As he stepped out of the house that had once been his home, he felt lighter. The pain was still there, but so was clarity. He had lost a wife. But he had gained something far more valuable, the truth, and that was worth more than all the billions in the world. Months passed. The divorce was finalized, and Claire walked away with far less than she had expected. Ethan had been generous, more than she deserved, but he refused to let her take control of his life ever again. The mansion was legally his, yet he never returned to live in it. He didn't need to. Instead, he moved into a modern penthouse in the heart of the city, a place free from the ghosts of betrayal. He focused on his business, but more than that, he focused on himself and Jacob. His son had chosen to stay with him. At just 10 years old, Jacob had proven to be more loyal and loving than his own mother. Ethan never forgot the way his son had whispered, "I don't care if we're rich or poor, Dad." That single sentence had meant more to him than all the wealth in his name. One evening, as Ethan was preparing dinner in their new home, Jacob sat on the counter, watching him. "Dad?" Ethan looked up from the cutting board. Yeah, buddy? Do you ever miss Mom? Ethan exhaled slowly, setting the knife down. I miss who I thought she was, but not who she really turned out to be. Jacob nodded as if he understood more than a child should. Do you think Olivia will ever talk to us again? Ethan sighed. Olivia had stayed with Claire, unwilling to forgive Ethan for what she saw as his failure. The last time they had spoken, she had called him selfish for letting their mother suffer. She still didn't know the truth. Maybe she never would. I don't know, kid, Ethan admitted, but no matter what, I'll always be here for you. Jacob smiled, small but genuine. I know. As they sat down to eat, Ethan realized something. For the first time in years, he wasn't surrounded by luxury, fake smiles and shallow love. Instead, he had a quiet home, a real conversation, and a son who loved him for who he was, not what he owned. And that, he thought, was the kind of wealth no amount of money could buy.